like a conversion, do, like the very first time, do, like a conversion. We're gonna be digital, no more analog.
Oh, whoa, whoa. Oh, whoa, whoa. It's conversion.
Taxpayer subsidized.
It's conversion.
Digital all the time.
So mess with your antenna.
'Cause it's very binary. Like conversion.
It will pixelate all the time.
That's a great way to transition to this.
Yes. So I found this in an old wallet, and it has the number on there and everything, but this is like from over a decade ago, so I don't think it really matters. It's from the TV Converter Box coupon program. You can see it says $40 towards the purchase of an eligible converter box, expired June 19th, 2009. And this was probably one of the big technological crises of world history, or of human history.
Yeah.
Because this was one of the first times where such a commonly used piece of technology suddenly became obsolete. And every person in the modern world had to scramble to either get a new TV or get a converter box so that this piece of technology that they had bought, this electronic device, could still work. I think that's pretty much unprecedented. That was like the first time that the way that a device, an electronic device, functions fundamentally changed like that.
Yeah, the next thing that I could think of was when 2G technology got phased out. Because right now they phased out 2G at a lot of networks, and then they are going to 3, and they're going to phase that out. Eventually, it's all going to be 5G.
Yeah.
But that was not state sanctioned. Where this was public airways, where the government was saying, your signal, your television, you're no longer going to have access to that. This is all going to be a digital signal.
Yeah.
Because the FCC totally mandates that. Where a lot of the spectrum for the cellular companies, they have more control and leeway and flexibility of it.
Yeah.
But this one was just huge because you got decades of TVs. You got TVs that go back to the 50s, basically, into the early 2000s.
Yeah.
They could only pick this up.
I remember Antenna Man making a video where he took a road trip to pick up the last analog TV signal.
Yeah.
The last one ever, which I think ended a few years ago. And he stayed in a hotel and brought along a portable TV so that he could pick it up. Like a portable TV from before the transition.
Yeah.
It was a pretty upsetting thing for me because I grew up out in the country, and we went from having a pretty reliable TV to having not reliable TV at all, and it was pretty upsetting, because analog, for whatever flaws it might have, like the reduced bandwidth and everything, it's a hell of a lot more reliable, like a hell of a lot more reliable, because it's not binary. It's, like you said, digital is binary. Mm-hmm. With analog, if you if you have a little bit of like signal interference or like a little bit of like doubling of the image, you can still at least watch the show. You don't a little bit of static, a little bit of like shadowing, I think they call it. You can still watch it and enjoy the program, but with digital TV, it either works or it doesn't. And just last night, I was watching a television program, and there was something going on upstairs, a person walking around upstairs, and they were messing with the signal just from walking around.
Huh.
And I'll have, it can depend on what cars are parked outside. It can depend on a lot of things, and I'll have the antenna set up in a certain way, and it works fine for months at a time, weeks or months at a time, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work in that position anymore, and I have to change it. And I've also heard that they do like periodically they'll actually purposely like lower the signal when they're doing like maintenance or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's so anyway. I mean, I guess that the main benefit of digital TV is the increased bandwidth, where we now have as many channels on over-the-air TV as people who had cable had back in the day, like in the early days of cable.
57 channels and nothing on that Springsteen's song, but I think there's 36 channels.
Yeah.
But it is nice to get all the different ones. I mean, I like that. But my setup, you made me appreciate that I'm on a ranch and that I bought a big-ass metal antenna on the roof. Because then, for me, I don't really have much issue with the...
Do you never have problems at all?
Very rarely. So the channels like 279, those channels,
yeah,
minimal pixelization here or there, minimal cutouts, but really it's good. But I have a decent tuner, and I think the roof thing really helps because it mitigates a lot of the interference, and it's a big metal surface way on top of everything that it hits and sends the signal to.
Yeah.
And I'm also kind of on the top of a hill too.
Yeah. I mean, I am too, but having the roof antenna, that's always giving you a better signal, whether you're talking analog or digital. Yeah. But not everyone can have a roof antenna, and so it kind of screws over the people who can't. Yeah. Or people who live between two broadcast areas.
Oh yeah.
That's one thing that Antenna Man talks about a lot. Is like if you're like usually a broadcast area is about like 60 miles.
Okay.
Because of the curvature of the Earth, it's about a 60-mile radius. If you are just outside of that radius, that means that you're also just outside of the other you're on the borderline of two different broadcast areas.
Whoa.
And for people in those areas, that really sucks.
Yeah.
You and I are lucky. You and I are like right in the middle of a major broadcast area.
Yeah.
Like we can even pick up channels that are broadcast in other communities because we're kind of in the middle of all of it.
Yeah, but then PBS is a statewide network here too.
Yeah,
you can pick up multiple PBSs. And they really. I mean, I feel like PBS is really, for being a public service, they really try hard to make sure they cover stuff. Because you look at their things and they got coverage all over the state.
Yeah. Let's see. There's like kind of a hologram on there. What does it say? Security. Oh. So this came from the government, Department of Commerce. Yep, Department of Commerce, United States of America. So it's official.
They said the program cost $1.5 billion. It started in January of 2008 and it ran until like your date there in 2009. It has
a number 1888 DTV 2009. I mean, it just must have been such a massive undertaking. Yeah. This coupon may be applied towards the purchase of an eligible converter box pursuant to program terms. It is illegal to sell, duplicate, or tamper with this coupon. Coupon will not be replaced if lost or stolen, one-time use only. I mean, it's good that they made cards like this because I would have been pissed at the time if I would have had to purchase something just for my TV to keep working.
Yeah. 73 million Americans were what they thought were affected by this back then.
Yeah.
My guess is today it'd be even higher.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot more people that dump their dish and their satellite and their cable and,
Yeah. I think when this happened, we ended up just buying a new TV.
Huh.
Because it just seemed like getting a converter box was pointless. Because you get the converter box, eventually you're going to have to get a new TV anyway. So then you're stuck with this kind of useless converter box, So,
well, you could get you probably got a nice high definition one, and,
It was a Sylvania.
Okay.
It was like a 20-something inch Sylvania.
Yeah.
Those were nice though.
Okay.
It was a CRT. It was like one of the later CRTs, like early to mid aughts.
Okay.
And I mean that was a good time for TVs.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of CRT TVs. They're good for gaming. And
retro gaming, right?
Yeah, for like retro gaming.
Yeah.
And well, I mean any kind, but especially the retro gaming.
Yeah.
because of the way because LCD screens can cause problems. There can be like delays and stuff like that. But yeah, they're good for that, and those were well-made TVs. I mean, they last a long time. I mean, there are people still using those TVs. But yeah, so I just thought this was an interesting piece of history, and because the Deviant historian is into stuff like this, communications technology.
Yeah.
We'll say like you. Like
Well,
not just telecom. I mean, telecom's kind of your main thing.
Yeah, there's a
but
variation.
but communications technology in general, I think, is kind of right in your wheelhouse.
Hopefully this one will go really viral for you, dude. Because like with that HomeWorks thing, that's basically a converter box that just you can connect a hard drive to it.
Right.
Converter box with an interactive guide and a DVR connection. But that would have been ineligible back in the day for these converters things. They had a whole thing about we won't have to subsidize somebody's DVR. It has to just be strictly a converter.
Huh.
Even though that DVR was like $40, so that coupon would have just paid for it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But I bet you back then it would have been a lot more money for a DVR. It wouldn't have been $40, but the price point and the technology and all that, never really come down. So.
Oh yeah, I mean when TiVo first came out, people were just thrilled with that. I mean that was like magic, because it fulfilled a need that people had for so long.
Record the crap and skip the commercials.
Yeah, like they didn't have to be home by a certain time to watch their favorite show.
But it's an interesting thing, and I remember when that was going on and all that stuff. And I think it did stimulate a lot more television sales. I bet you guys weren't alone in just saying, oh, let's just get a new TV.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just felt like they had to go ahead and do that, because what's the point of like getting this converter box just so that you can get another few years out of a TV that's probably on the way out anyway?
Yeah. I think from 2005 onward, they stopped selling the old tuners, and the old ones were called NTSC, and the new ones are ATSC 1.0, and they're going to be deploying ATSC 3.0. Some of them, it's already live in like New York and in California and those areas, and that's going to allow for way more sub-channels, some encryption though, so some of them they may try to shake you down for money and do a paid TV service, but I heard it's not going to be that many of them. They have more of an incentive to try to reach a broader market and make it more accessible to get more views and more revenue.
Yeah. Didn't you say something like before this video, something about how AM radio has pretty much stayed the same for 100 years?
Yes, they just amplify the modulation. And it's fascinating to me. It's a really fascinating technology, because FM radio is utilized even in cell phones. Every cell phone has the potential to be an FM receiver. But AM technology is just so obscure in the radio waves that are utilized for it. Unlike television and unlike FM, it's not really useful. Because why the channels are changing all the time and they're compressed a lot more is because some of those signals are being used for 5G. That's why they restructured what channels on what and what they're showing. But AM, they amplified the modulation back in the 1920s, we'll say, and it stayed the same. But the audio quality, you can't get the stereo quality.
Yeah.
You can't get a lot of that stuff. But all these talk shows, and even Iowa Public Radio has an AM one. But you think about like a Clear channel, where at night you could hear that thing nationwide or for huge distances and all that. I still really like AM, but I don't really listen to it much. But it's still around, and I think its cost structure is cheap enough, and I don't see it ever going away, honestly, because there's no higher best use for that broad spectrum.
Because if it went away, where would all the conservative radio hosts go?
Well, they're not going to go on the liberal internet, because those guys are going to filter, shadow ban them and filter them and all that. You know.
My dad, he was a big fan of Nikola Tesla, and he read a biography of Tesla, a couple of different ones. He read one from the 1940s, just after Tesla died, and then a more modern one. and he really got into Tesla. And my dad always went off about how really Tesla was the one who actually invented radio.
Wow.
Like in the history books, it's some guy named Marconi, some Italian guy.
Yeah.
But it was but basically he copied Tesla's technology and took credit for it. But the actual like elements of radio, Tesla actually invented.
Well, I think that real Tesla guy is a lot better than Tesla, the shady stock from a crappy electric company. You know, the Tesla cars.
Yeah.
I like the original Tesla dude.
I don't like how the name has become synonymous with that company and not with this inventor who really deserves a lot of credit, and he deserves to have his name be his name.
Yeah.
But I mean, like radio has existed since like the very early 1900s. Like when the Titanic sent its distress signal, it sent it over Morse code on radio. That was before you could actually like broadcast voices, but you could broadcast beeps and dashes.